um, and um, and all of my sisters that are on this call. And I want to stop and thank my sister Christine Chen, who leads APIAVote. I've been in this town now 25 years, and I think I met her on day 24, if that long. But we've been around each other for a long time, and just I know she's been tilling the field for I don't think as long as me, but quite a while. And so, and every few years we get together on something. And so when we were able to get together recently to really start talking about how we can protect the vote of all of our people, we got together because we were concerned about misinformation. She's been tilling the field for a very long time. So very excited to partner with her on this conversation, our Power Table Talk series. It's a celebration today. We're going to have some conversation about how we feel about the moment to have the first Black woman, first South Asian woman, first woman, all that, to become the 49th Vice President of the United States, and how we got here and where we need to go with it, and we can soar even higher. So I'm just thankful for the folks who thank Roland Martin for partnering with us again. And I'm gonna turn it over to our partner in this celebration. She leads, to my sister Christine Chen, for her to bring any remarks she'd like to bring. Christine.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, and Happy New Year. I sort of feel like the 2021 year has officially kicked off, and there's like a new sense of energy, excitement, and really great hope. I, along with APIAVote, are longtime friends and fans of the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, and as noted, of Melanie Campbell. We serve as sister organizations in the struggle to ensure communities of color are being heard. And as a national organization, we also work with local community partners to mobilize Asian American and Pacific Islanders in electoral and civic participation, because we know that the strength is really in the power of the grassroots. So today, I'm so excited to be a partner in today's important discussion and celebration. And Melanie, thank you for always being such a supportive sister, especially during the times when we as an API community throughout the years were perhaps missing at the table. You were always looking out for us, speaking up, and really making space for all of us to participate. Yesterday, we essentially witnessed Kamala Harris, a daughter of immigrants, take the oath of office for becoming the first woman, the first Black and South Asian woman to hold the office of vice president in our country. Today, our distinguished panelists will really share their thoughts, hopes, wisdoms, and aspirations as we reflect on what this moment presents to Black women and Asian women. While we are looking forward to all the exciting work that has to be done collectively and to move this country forward, I also want to pay homage to Representative Patsy Mink of Hawaii, a Japanese American woman who was the first woman of color to be elected to Congress, and to Representative Shirley Chisholm of New York, the first African American woman to serve in Congress. Because in 1972, they both broke barriers to attempt to run for president. It's because of their leadership and their ability to own their voice, we're able to build upon their vision and create that pipeline to continue this journey and shatter that glass ceiling. And thanks to the mentorship of many of the sisters who are here today on this panel with us, I'm excited to share that the API electorate is not only growing, but we also overperformed in the 2020 general elections and for the Georgia runoff. In every single battleground state, the API early vote turned out surged relative to 2016 by more than any other group. And every battleground state in all but 3, API early vote exceeded their total 2016 turnout. This did not occur overnight, and it's because of many API women who laid out the groundwork, working with other women of color for this impressive surge by utilizing state-specific grassroots outreach to create the conditions needed for API voters to feel confident and empowered to cast their vote. They also address the barriers facing this electorate that is majority immigrant. The API umbrella is a diverse community that has over 50 ethnicities and dozens more languages. So in today's discussion, we'll be asking what are the political implications and impact on the future of American politics. Does a woman of color VP mean that barriers of getting to the political table be less challenging? When one of us are missing at the table, can we count on Black women and Asian women to make space for those who are not given room or invited? And how do we bridge understanding issues, policies, so that support is actually achieved? Today marks a new beginning of how Black and Asian women strengthen our resolve and to embrace Asian and Black women who consider politics. So let's build upon the success of 2020 and the historic election of Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, one of the things I forgot to do, and what I didn't forget, but just trying to move and make sure we start on time. Want to lift up our partner organizations who partner with us. Clayla Brown with the A. Philip Randolph Institute, Choteka Edie with Win with Black Women, and Mignon Moore and Leah Darcy with Power Rising. I want to thank you all for partnering with us on this very, very important Power Table Talk today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melanie, for sharing those amazing partners. And again, we welcome you all to the Black Women's Roundtable Power Table Talk, She Leads Celebration. We're going to move forward and have remarks from one of our media partners. If Ms. Carolyn Wanga from Essence, she is the interim CEO of Essence Communications. Carolyn, if you are here with us, please come and bring us remarks. We are so excited to have Essence.com and Essence Communications with us today.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you see me? I am here. So as long as you guys are good, I'm good. It's always good to be in fellowship with a community of sisters. There's just something about the vibe that comes about when we're together that makes us continue to want to be together. I'll give you just a couple of thoughts on where I am. We've been a great partner of a lot of the folks on here, Black Women's Roundtable included, but we're also a brand that has existed for 50 years for the purpose of highlighting the Black woman. And I think that's where I'll start my remarks about what yesterday created, right? The first thing that I would share with you extremely honestly is that although we have continued to see the world, right, embrace what Black women are, whether it be what people finally saw in the election, whether it be about Kamala's inauguration yesterday, the reality is we already knew. Black women have been the CEOs of their homes, of their lives, the CFO, the chief wellness officer, the chief operating officer, the medical doctor, the lawyer, the pastor, right? The power of Black women and their influence, not just on their own lives, but the lives of those around them and the communities those people live in and the communities that those folks interact with, has been a truth since the beginning of time. So while I'm glad that people are now recognizing that we're powerful, I'm not giving you credit for being woke. I'm just giving you credit for oversleeping and trying to catch up on your day. So the bar is already high enough. The second thing I would say about yesterday is that what it also does is continue to open the door to repositioning us from somebody that is a transactional partner you want to engage with versus a partner who, if you don't engage with, your engagement is incomplete. Right? We are driving culture. We sit there. We are not a transactional every once in a while friend. You need us more than we need you. And so I hope that yesterday's moment repositioned the power that we've existed in, that all entities start to recognize across public and private is necessary. And if you engage with us, you change communities because we always pierce through, we take care of them and make sure that they're there. The last piece that I would share that I think is really critical about what yesterday did, right? That aligns to both the Essence's platform, but of course the platforms of all women of color, right, is related to, there is an awesome moment that happened yesterday that makes a day where we've had a Black and Asian female vice president in America will never exist again. That will never be a true story again. And what that means is that for those of us that have benefited from the people and what they did before us, now have to do even more today than we were planning to do yesterday, because now the bar's higher. And we all picked up a baton that was handed off to us by the people that came before us, and we'll be handing that baton off to the people that come after this. Our goal ought to be to hand it off further ahead than where you picked it up. This is a moment of not just national reckoning on what women of color are as an entity that is thriving, not an entity that needs charity, right? But this is also a moment where we tell the difference between equality and equity Equality is giving everybody a shoe. Equity is giving everybody the shoe that fits, and we want our shoes, right? We want our shoes and we want them to fit. And if you're not going to give them to us, we're going to make them, but eventually it's going to be vice versa, right? We have been subject to sticky floors, broken ladders, and glass ceilings, and that day is gone. Our power exists. Our access was always limited because that power is threatening. And what I'm excited about as we go into this next season that Sister Kamala commemorated, but so many before her also contributed to, is that America, the world, the societies, the entities, the public and private sector will take notes and do it better. Because the power of what we do is going to exist whether they acknowledge it or not. And if you thought we were hood rats, now you see we're a little bit more than that.
Well, thank you, Sister Carolyn Wanga. We are so grateful for your words. Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to pick that baton up right where we found it. We're not going to go back and pick it. We're pressing forward. We are lifting as we rise. We thank you so much, Sister Carolyn Wanga, interim CEO of Essence Communications, over 50 years publication for Black women. And so we are so proud to have you as our media partner. We wish you Godspeed. And we know that Essence will live on for another 50 plus years with women like you at the helm. Thank you again, Ms. Carolyn Wanga, for your remarks. And we ask that you keep us in your prayers and in your thoughts. Thank you, Carolyn. Next, we are going to move forward. We are so excited. You know, we can't do anything of deep purpose without invocation. That is what we do as women of color. We depend, we hope, we wait, and we trust on prayer to get us through. And so in this moment, we're going to have an invocation by one of our very own. We're very proud to bring her to the space with us today. Help me welcome Reverend Leslie Dwight. She is National Programs and Outreach Manager for the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and a Minister of Social Justice for the Community of Hope AME Church in Temple Hills, Maryland, a dynamic woman of God who is also a leader in her own right. Help us bring Reverend Leslie Dwight to the Zoom lens for us to have invocation. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Michelle. You know, the scripture says in the 118th Psalm that this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And if you watch what I watched yesterday, you indeed found a reason to rejoice and be glad. And I am so excited today that even as I woke up this morning and I began to still savor the moment that happened yesterday, the words that were penned by James Weldon Johnson came to mind. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far along the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in thy path, we pray. Come on and pray with me to the God of our weary years. God, thank you for being the God who was with us in the weary years. God, thank you for being the one that wiped away our silent tears. But God, thank you that we have a reason to celebrate, God, that you have been with us along our journey. You've been with us along the way. God, we thank you for your word that says that now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. God, we thank you for those who paved the way, those that had faith, God, before they could even see it. The Fannie Lou Hamers and the Shirley Chisholms, God, the Gertrude Simmons Bonnens and the Mabel Ping Wan Lees, God, these women, God, who were trailblazers, women of colors across nationalities, God, that when they were ignored and they were maligned and they were ill-served by government, God, that they had a faith beyond what they could see. God, a faith, God, that led up to this moment that we can celebrate now so that people like Vice President Kamala Harris could be the evidence of things not yet seen. So God, as we move forward, give us the courage and give us the strength, give us the fortitude and give us the endurance to keep walking by faith and not by sight. Amen.
Amen, 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 amen. We thank you, Reverend Leslie Dwight. We feel the Spirit of God moving all through these boxes. And so we are so grateful to have you on our team. Without further ado, you know, whenever we celebrate, we have to have music. That's just what we do as women of color. Anywhere you go, there's going to be a song, there's going to be a drum, there's going to be a bass, there's going to be sound. And we couldn't let you have this moment today with us at the She Leads celebration without giving you amazing artistry. And I am so excited, so grateful and humbled to present our next guest. Our next guest is a 3-time Grammy-nominated gospel and soul singer, celebrating a decade in solo artistry. Prior to being a solo performer, she was a member for a decade with Donald Lawrence and Company. And be real clear, there's something about these decades. Every decade, it seems like this artist does something amazing. And so we're excited that she's with us today. Her album released and debuted back in 2012. It was called Worship Soul with the single Speechless. And it led her into 2011. Then she had albums subsequently, Sunday Song, Dance Soul. But we're excited to have her here today as she's also an activist in her own right. She's president and CEO of her independent music label, Reflection Media. Can you help me welcome to our She Leads celebration, the 3-time nominated, Grammy-nominated artist, Miss Anita Wilson.
Hello, thank you so very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
They give me yes. All right. I want to make sure we're good. Good afternoon, beautiful women. It is such an honor to be with you today. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I am honored. I am motivated. I am inspired. I am proud as a Black woman. First of all, I will say congratulations to President Joseph R. Biden and to Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. God is so amazing. He's so faithful. And if I can be honest, as a woman of faith, as a Black woman, and just as a human, I am hopeful for the first time in a long time. And I know I'm not the only one that feels way, but I'm motivated, I'm inspired, and I'm so grateful for what God is allowing us to experience. So thank you for this opportunity to just infuse some more faith into this atmosphere and charge this atmosphere as we go on this journey. This song that I'm going to minister right now, it is about faith, and it's about those things that we don't see yet, but we know that we walk by faith and not by sight. So this song simply says, y'all, it's done. Beautiful women, it's done. What you shall be, it says what I shall be, I already am. God has worked it out on my behalf. It goes on to say, my eyes may not see it, but by faith I receive it. Go on and tell yourself it will manifest. It's already done. Hallelujah. Glory to your name, God. We bless your name. Hallelujah. Listen. It's done. Yeah. What I shall be, I already am. It's done. Oh, yes, it is. God has worked it out on my behalf. My eyes may not see it. By faith, I receive it. It will manifest. It's already done. Oh, say it's done. Yeah, what I shall be, I already am. God has worked it out. Yes, He has. My eyes may not see it. By faith, I receive it. It will manifest. Yeah. Come on, everybody, say. It's done. Come on, say it for your life today. What I shall be, I already am, girl. Yes, it's done. God has worked it out on my behalf. I believe it today. My eyes may not see. By faith I receive it. Come on, say it again. My eyes may not see. By faith I receive it. before you even see what you're believing him for. Come on and worship in advance. You say that. Praise him in advance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hallelujah. He did it before. He will do it again. Come on and worship. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you believe it, say done. Yeah, done. It's already done. Say done. Yeah, done. It's already done. Oh, say my healing. My healing. It's already done. Yeah. Say my victory. Glory. My victory. It's already done. Look at somebody. See your healing. Your victory. It's already done. Yeah, yeah. Say power for this hour. It's already done. Hey, yeah. Say favor for my neighbor. Come on, say it, y'all. Favor for my neighbor. Oh, favor for me. I need favor for me. Hey, I receive it. My healing. I receive it. My victory. It's already done. Hallelujah. It's already done. Thank you, Lord. It will manifest. It's already done. Yeah. Come on, you say it. It will. It's already done. Lord, we praise you through the eyes of faith today. It will manifest. It's already done. Hallelujah. Glory to God. God bless you, ladies.
We thank God for you. It is already done. It is already done. We thank God for you, Anita, sister, Miss Anita Wilson. We thank God for you. It's already done. And so we just want to, again, just thank you for bringing all that good energy to this celebration. We have seen it. You saw it yesterday. It's already done. And so we are grateful, but we have so much more to do. And we are so excited to keep this tribute going. So excited to have had you with us today, Miss Anita Wilson. So grateful again for Essence Communications as our social media partner. So grateful for Roland Martin Unfiltered as our partner as well. And so many others, APIA, we are so grateful for you. Without further ado, this is the opportunity where we get to hear from these amazing she leaders. We get to hear from these amazing women who have been boots on the ground and from Capitol Hill down to the grass. And so we're going to have Miss Melanie Campbell come forward, and Melanie and Christine Chen will co-moderate our first panel, our Power Table 1 panelists. Let me just tell you who you're going to see this afternoon at this Power Table. You're going to have the blessing of being able to bear witness to the political scientist. Let me make sure I get it all right. The political scientist and former First Lady of the District of Columbia, Cora Masters Berry. You will also hear from Cleola Brown, National President of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. You will also hear from Glenda Carr, President and CEO of Higher Heights for America. Miss Madeline Milke, President and CEO of Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. Mignon Moore, co-convener of Power Rising, and Miss Joteka Edie, co-convener of Win with Black Women. Buckle up, because this will be an amazing conversation moderated by President of the NCBCP and Black Women's Roundtable, Melanie Campbell, and Miss Christine Chen. We are excited to have you. Let's go, ladies.
All right, all right. It is already done. Thank you, my sister Anita Wilson, and thank you, Joteka, for making that connection, because that's what sisters do. So it is already done. And so looking forward to this dynamic conversation, co-moderated my sister Christine Chen. So Christine, I'll start it off with question 1, and then we're just gonna do, ladies, we're gonna just flow with this thing. And so it is so exciting. The first I want to ask everyone to answer, and we'll go right in the order. Not sure Mignon was able to make it. I know she had a schedule, so she's not here. We know she's here in spirit, because I don't see her on in these wonderful boxes we're in. But the first questions, ladies, and Sister Cleola, and Cora and Sister Cleola, you all start us off, and then Glenda will come to you and Madeline, and then Joe Taker. So the question is, on a personal level, what did it mean to you? And how do you feel? How did you feel yesterday when you witnessed that swearing in of our 49th Vice President, Kamala Harris? And to be that first woman, that first Black woman, that first South Asian woman, that sister who just emanated. When she walked out there, I was just like, yes. It just was like something just exploded in me that I didn't even expect. So how did you feel yesterday? Sister Cora, Clay, Glenda, and then Madeline, and then Joe Taker.
Hey, Cora, is it you or is it me that's going first?
You can start.
Cora, then Clay, or whichever one of y'all. Sorry about that.
Okay.
She can start.
Okay, thank you. I'm sitting here grinning because I'm still full from what has already been offered to this table. I mean, just to listen to Carolyn Wingo from Essence, sister, you are on fire. I don't know where you are on the screen. I can never follow these things, so that's not a slight on you. That's a slowness on my part. But when you spoke, you made me understand clearly that our work has to continue in such a way that there is no letting up. It's let's get ready, let's go. And your freshness really empowered me to start getting some more energy. And I thank you for that. I truly thank you for that. Anita, I don't know where you came from. I've heard you before, but to hear you in this venue is something very, very special. And Joteka, if you did the hookup, girl, thank you so much. Because I was sitting here trying to be cool because the rest of y'all are so cool, calm, and collected. But I was getting ready to go to the real place. And being from South Carolina, you can't hold it but so long. It just jumps right out on you. So yes, yesterday was unbelievable. I sat there, well, I laid there because my mom and I laid in bed and watched it together. And I laid there and watched as she took her place on that stage. And spontaneously, we both started to clap together. That was that hallelujah moment, thanking God, but also thanking her for being who she was to represent in the way that she did. But more than that, to thank all of the sisters over the years who've been maintaining the struggle and saying this too will happen, not shall come, but will happen, owning it before it actually got announced on yesterday. Not just the second spot, but we're going after the first spot too, but that second one is a good start. And it's sisters like Cora Berry and Melanie and our young sister Jotega, who is just killing it, that will help to make that become a reality before these eyes of mine close. Then as the morning went on and people started to call and text while I was trying to watch the show, it just gave that extra juice. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't even want to text anybody back. I just wanted to be in that moment. But to know that so many people were reacting in that way brought on them happy tears. You know, that one where your face goes sideways and your nose start running and everything else just lets go. There was such a relief that was experienced because of the pride that was coming up from the bottom of not just the heart, but the spirit, that made you take ownership, no matter how small the contribution to it may have been. And I know my part is small, but compared to the feeling that I had, I felt like I helped push her across that stage. And I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm gonna hold right on to that. Because this morning when I heard a little sister, about 7 years old, say on TV that she looks just like me, I went right back to that ugly cry space again, because that's what it's all about. Our kids can't be what they can't see. And to see that was a door that has long been waiting to open. So before I get to the other place one more time, I just want to say that it was wonderful. In a word, it was just wonderful. That's what I felt yesterday. It was wonderful.
Well, that was very inspirational to me to listen to you. And I love the picture in my mind of you and your mom in bed watching it together. Oh, I wish I could do that with my mom. So that was a wonderful thing. And by the way, my mother, you look it up, Dr. Isabel Masters ran for president of the United States 4 times. And if you look up Black women or women who ran for president, she'll be at the top. She's right there. So I know she would have really enjoyed watching that. But as a political scientist and as a woman of a certain age, my value, my view of it, I had a contextual framework. I was studying and analyzing the events that have gone on for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I watched and I studied what was happening on the 6th and the reaction to it. And all of this is ordained. I mean, God has a way of waking us up and bringing us to deal with the devils and the obstacles that we've just gone through too much. And to me, when I saw her, I didn't feel like, oh, this is, because, you know, I have a granddaughter and she doesn't know that you can't be president of the United States. When she was born, Barack Obama was president. So this is all normal for her to see a Black woman and a Black man doing things like that. But I think looking at what we've been through in the last 4 years and looking what we've gone through in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it just can't, I just stopped. And I said, this is a racial reconciliation. This is reckoning of the issue of race that has gone on in this country too long. There are too many people who have been pushed to the side. I grew up through the 60s and we were talking about Black power. And by the time I got to 2020, we weren't talking about it anymore because they had dummied us down all of those generations. So to me, to see Kamala up there, I believe from that sister, from what I've been picking up, I've been watching her. I'm looking at the symbolisms. That's great. You know, the Howard band and all of that, that makes all feel like a part of it. But I'm thinking we have work to do because the serious, impactful policies which will change the lives of our people deep in our communities is now and it's never or never. And I expect her to be the conscience of America. I expect her to make sure that Joe Biden's on the right track. And you're right. Today, and I've said this before, is the beginning of the campaign of the next president of the United States, which will be a Black woman. And it will be Kamala Harris. But she's got to do the work. She's got to do the work and she's got to be serious about it. She's got to go deep. And I want to say in 4 years, when I'm out there campaigning for her, I don't want one brother or one sister to say to me, why should I vote? Nothing ever happens in my community. Nobody ever does anything for me. It's her job to make sure they don't say that to us so that we can say in the last 4 years, all of these policies have gone on. Your tuition abated, enterprise zones in your community, job opportunities, stuff that really changes the lives. That's when I look at her, I'm thinking, you got some work to do, sister. You look cute, but you got some work to do. That's what I was thinking. I'm sorry, y'all.
Cora, thank you, Cora. Thank you, Clay, Cora, and then Glenda, and then I'm hoping I'm right. I'm looking, Christine, at you. It is Madeline on this one. We knew we had to do a switch, right? Madeline's on this.
Madeline.
Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't pick up the wrong script. Thank you so much. So then it'll sit for my sister Glenda, Higher Heights, and Madeline with the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. And then following her, we are Sister Joteka Edie with the Win with Black Women. Glenda, we don't hear you. Okay, we'll come back. Okay. All right. So we'll go to Madeline.
Thank you so much, Melanie. And, much thanks to you and to Christine for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I greatly appreciate being in community with all of you strong women and look forward to learning from you as well. So, the moment itself, I think, was very emotional for me. And I think it's also something that's important with the Asian American Pacific Islander community, because we see one of us also up there. I think it's one of those things too, where you see a lot of intersectionality as this nation continues to evolve to be a more perfect union. Seeing that we have so many identities involved in the work that we do in the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Christine alluded to earlier how diverse we are as a community, languages that we speak. Having Vice President Harris be a daughter of immigrants is also such a strong prevailing theme for us, because so many of our new citizens are immigrants to this country, and having her be a symbol of leadership teaches all of America that immigrants have a vital voice in the story of the creation of this nation. And I think so much of that is such a personal story to the API community. And I'm just so blessed to see it happen, to see a woman of color, and to recognize that all the work that Black women have put forth in this country in the civil rights movement, how we can be an ally and coalition to make sure that we are all working together to strengthen our communities and our families, is such a vital piece of how this country becomes a better one. And it's because of those voices, and hopefully through the work of the Vice President in her role in advocating for all of our communities, like Ms. Berry said, this is a part of that, is that we look forward to seeing her not just be a symbol, but also to be a person who will advocate for us in the future.
Thank you, Madeline, so much. And yes, we're building this coalition right now. So I appreciate you joining us. Glenda, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Yes. And then
Great. So the irony of you not hearing me is, I said, my voice sounds like I was out in DC for a physical inauguration for the last 4 days. I have no voice anymore. And my body feels like we were all together for 4 days leading up to it, except my feet feel okay. Because our feet would be killing us. So, for Higher Heights, it was found, well, the words Higher Heights was written down 10 years ago in February by Kimberly Peeler Allen and I, and we dreamt a dream that led us to this moment. And so certainly it was getting of a full circle moment, recognizing the work for Black women's leadership and political power. But I have been sad, my Maya Angelou grandmother, there's a line in there that says, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And that is certainly what Vice President Kamala Harris did yesterday. I mean, her multiple identities, that's her superpower, right?
Glenda,
in my multiple identities in this woman, right? Daughter of an immigrant,
It's your Wi-Fi is technology is not our friend. I want to take the video off just for a minute and see if because it cut you off. If you could go back, you make that quote, so people have to hear it. So you may have to take your video off for a minute and see if that'll clear it.
Oh no!
I know. I'm like, no, you got to go back to that quote. If you don't mind.
Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I said that Maya Angelou once wrote, I come as one, but stand as 10,000. And that is certainly what Kamala Harris did yesterday, right? She is the first woman of color, daughter of immigrants, right? South Asian woman, a member of a historically Black Greek letter organization, a graduate of a historically Black college, a daughter who was bused to but was in a busing program. I mean, every single piece of that. I am a daughter of a Jamaican immigrant. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. My parents fought and advocated for my brothers and I to have some of the best education, and we were bused. And so I think that is what is going to be her thing, the intersectionality of her ability to take these multiple identities and actually be able to lead and put forth policies and advocate for budget priorities that center all Americans. And that is what Black women leaders have always done, right? When we have diverse decision-making tables, we make better decisions. And I'll just leave this. The irony of, we've been fighting, we were fighting to ensure that the appointment of her vacant seat would have been a Black woman. That didn't happen, but it is also resolved that we know that we need to ensure that we are electing more Black women at all levels, including the vacancy of a Black woman in the US Senate. But the irony of the fact that there's no Black woman seated in the chamber as a senator, she is presiding as the president of that chamber that she ascended to. And so I certainly look forward to working with her to govern and to put forth policies that center Black women, our families, and our communities. And I'm going to go figure out what's wrong with my internet gremlins today. But I'm so happy to be celebrating with all these women who fought, literally, y'all, these women fought and advocated for Black women to be vice president. And then we got to work to ensure that we were mobilizing our networks to the polls to be able to be in this day. And so I'm so grateful to be in partnership with every single one of these women in the organizations they lead.
Thank you, Glenda. Joteka, and then I'll turn it over to my sister Christine, our co-host and co-moderator.
Well, thank you both, Christine and Nell, for just bringing us together to celebrate, and for everything that you have done to pave the way for this moment to happen. And, as our dear sister leader, my fellow South Carolina sister and mentor, Cleola Brown, said that the table has already been poured into with such spirit. And I think as I reflect on what I was thinking about yesterday, I had the honor and the privilege to be there in person, to bear witness to just what was a monumental day for women of color, for Black women, for all Americans on yesterday. And Mel, I know you were there as well. It just did something for my soul to witness. And for those that were out there, I'm not sure if it was conveyed on television, but when she walked out there, snow flurries began to fall out of the sky. And it was just something that you just really couldn't, it's hard to even explain what I felt like. It was the tears of joy just flowing down the earth from my ancestors and those that paved the way. And when she took the oath of office, the sun came out. It was cold out there, and the ray of sun and across the entire Capitol line, we felt warmth. And that, I believe, was just the joy and the radiation of light and joy coming from my ancestors. So when I think about this moment and the moment that I witnessed, for me to be a young Black girl that grew up on a dirt road in South Carolina with grandfathers that tilled other people's farms and grandmothers that took care of other people's houses, it was a sense of immense pride to be witness. Also a sense of pride to just have been and played a small part in the legacy. And I really thought about every single Black woman who stood in the gap, who envisioned, and I had listened to my dear sister friend, Anita Wilson, bring that powerful word of ministry this morning. And what she said is done. It was done. My eyes may not have seen it, but by faith, I receive it. It will manifest. It's done. And I thought about the fact that before I was even born, there were Black women who knew that it was already manifested and done, and they did the work. They paved the way. 22 founders of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated who marched in the women's suffrage knowing that they knew that it would be years before the right to vote would come for a woman. They knew it would be years, but what they knew is that it would happen. I thought about Shirley Chisholm. I thought about Dr. Dorothy Irene Height. I thought about Barbara Jordan. I thought about Sojourner Truth. I thought about so many Black women who paved the way. And then I also thought about all of the sisters that are still here. I thought about the Color Girls, Donna, Tina, Mignon, Leah, Yolanda. I thought about Sister Mel, Sister Clay, Sister Cora, Siobhan, and Rhonda, and Star, and Karen, and the list goes on and on. But I thought about how we all came together to win with Black women, and that this moment is indeed our moment to cherish, to stand proud in. But as our sister Leah reminded us the other night, on Thursday, the work continues. And so I know that we've got work to do, that we have to stand with our sister, Vice President Kamala Harris. We know that there's no Black woman in the Senate. There's no Black woman in the governor's house. But what we know is that it is possible. And as Anita reminded us this morning, that it is done. It is already done, and it shall manifest.
Thank you, sister. Call the roll, and there's so many other names. And I'm going to give a shout out to our Black Women's Roundtable. I'm going to give a shout out to my sister, Latasha Brown. I'm going to give a shout out to all of our civil rights and social justice organizations. Cleola, we work real close together with APRI. It took all of that. Cora, you roll it and push it on us and getting it and got out of space and put yourself in a space you really wasn't too comfortable and started having conversations every week. It was so much of all of that. And Christine, I'm so glad we're able to partner, because I know you and I were speaking, you all were getting it done. And so Lord knows, I hope I didn't, if you didn't hear me call your name, you know I was calling your name in spirit, because it took all of that, all of these years, all of that, all of the toiling in the vineyards, and I'm going Clay, so I do my ugly cry.
Okay, Cleola, stop.
Right, I'm
gonna
gonna stop talking.
Crying.
And I just thank God that I was able to live to see this moment. And for me, I'll turn it over to my sister Christine.
Oh.
About that snow.
Thanks, Melanie. You know, to continue
before I lose it here.
I'll go ahead and take over as we all regroup. But you know, I want to. The next question, I really, as we're moving forward, we really want to talk about, like, what does this period really mean in terms of Kamala Harris shattering that major glass ceiling as the second highest elected office in our nation. What are the historical and political implications for this moment in our future of politics? And I want to start off maybe with Madeline and Glenda, because I know both your organizations really focus on pipeline development. And then we could also talk with the rest of the group about, what do Black women, API women, want the Biden administration and Congress to address in the next 100 days? So, Madeline?
Christine, so, I'm really fortunate that Glenda and I are also part of a coalition of women called In Reflect Us, to really work together and trying to bring women representation, to equal levels throughout the country. And so, Glenda and Higher Heights they've joined us on multiple panels to really talk about how API women and Black women can work together and in coalition. And I learn so much from her every day in that partnership. And having Vice President Harris, in this role, I think really does shatter what people's definition of leadership looks like. That physical, force of having a Black South Asian woman as your vice president. You've seen the memes of all of the previous vice presidents were older white males, and now you have this woman who is of color, really breaking that sequence. And representation in that is so important, because now we can define that leadership as an example. What's also important to recognize is that this incoming administration has broken precedents. in 2000, it was the first time that a presidential cabinet included an Asian American, and that was Secretary Norman Mineta in the Commerce Secretary position. And every administration thereafter has had an Asian American cabinet secretary except this one. And a cabinet secretary is one of the 15 executive departments that you see around the table advising the president on the public policy that he is trying to enforce and create for this country. So in that, it's a strange contrast to have the vice president be Asian American and Black and not have an Asian American in the cabinet as a cabinet secretary. And so again, that is something that, you know, as Glenda and I work in our cohort to really talk about how we have representation where she doesn't have a Black woman in the Senate. How can I, as a leader within the API community, help her achieve her goals? And she also gives me ideas on how I can achieve my goals and bring more Asian Americans into public service. So I think it's you know, one of those things that we try to work on together and individually. And at APACS, we have what we call the Women's Collective. It is a program specific to Asian American, Pacific Islander women to encourage them to enter public service and to run for office. And it is a community, and it is one that, you know, when I look at the Black women's community, it is aspirational for us to also see all the work that you have done in the years past, that we hope that we can have a similar community for ourselves. And so there is so much that I see every day in your work that I also hope for in my own community too. So thank you so much for all the work that you do.
And Glenda, hopefully our AV works.
We'll see. But yeah, the partnerships are important. And I certainly appreciate Madeline's, you know, partnership and friendship and it is about what the strategy looks like beyond 2020, right? We have obviously built a blueprint around voting. We've created a blueprint around how we as a coalition can push policies, and we certainly have created and seen blueprints around political leadership. And so it's about accelerating that work. You know, Black women, API women, you know, our Latinx women, we want what our neighbors want. We want economically thriving, educated, healthy, and safe communities. And the goals now is how do we come together and determine how we are able to center the intersectionality of race, ethnicity, and gender in a way that can reimagine how we ensure that women, you know, that look like us get our return on our voting investment, right? Black women are certainly demanding our return, and that is in form of policies that center us, and we're claiming seats at decision-making tables. And so I look forward to working not only with this table, but also, frankly, everyday Black women and women of color across this country to actually build the strategy and the strategy and the political will and the political demand. At the end of the day, we want to be governing partners, but Vice President Kamala Harris has always said she wants us to hold her accountable. And so that is the work ahead of us.
Wonderful. And then maybe if we could have Cora, Cleola, and Jotaka speak a little bit about what do we really want, what are we expecting in the next 100 days? What do we want? Oh, Cora, if you could unmute yourself.
I'd like to say that something about that, because this pandemic has really shown us a lot of different ways to do things. And I can give you a zillion examples, but I'm telling you that yesterday showed America. And what grieved my heart was this country is made up of all kinds of people. And why does it always have to be so divided? So I'm concerned about that. And then us as Black women, we can't just advocate for Black women. I was talking to Jotaka earlier, and I was telling her I have a friend coming over, and I was saying I'm going to be on a panel, so you're going to have to wait. And this is an ex-congressman, and he said, "What, y'all doing that women thing again?" He said, "Every time I look up, I hear you women are caucusing and doing stuff." And I was like, "Calm down." And Jotaka said, Well, tell them we advocating for them too. And so, but it was really funny because I didn't even know that he knew. He says, that win with Black women, or what is it? Which one of these? We said one of these mafia groups that you all, and I laughed. But I am saying that as Black women, we also have to advocate for the larger community. In my heart, that grieved me. And I started a podcast, and Melanie's right, for one purpose and one purpose only. I was asked to do it, and I only did it because I wanted to try to reach the unreachable in terms of this election. I was grieved by so many of my people being so disaffected and not understanding the impact and the importance of voting. So I brought on Joe Taker and Melanie and a whole bunch of other people to talk about why it was important and what we could do. And so when I leave that, I want us to not just advocate for, and we deserve it, Black women, but advocate for our communities. I say again, advocate for how we have policies that reach into the heart and the depth of our communities. I never want to walk into another community in these 4 years and they can't say to me, I can see what's happening. I see these policies are affecting my life. My children are getting a better education. We have job opportunities. So that's my goal. That's my gift. It's for us using our collective power to advocate for the dispossessed, for the diversity of this community, and for our poor Black men who was over there 19% voting for Trump and are excited right now because some rappers got a pardon. We got to educate. I mean, we have work to do. Because I said to the young woman who said, oh, well, you know, they, what did he say? What's that man with the teeth? Lil Wayne? Oh, they did Lil Wayne. I am happy about Kwame Kilpatrick because he had no business in there in the first place. That's how I feel. That was a miscarriage of justice, and you know, it was just horrible. But he was saying, and I said, well, did you pay attention to how many Black people he executed while he was pardoning the other ones? Did you look at that side of the story? So we have we got the Proud Boys over there being miseducated, but we also have people in our community that are being miseducated. So we've got to learn how to we got to advocate, get in our communities, push Kamala and Biden, although I have a little bit more faith in Biden. I don't have a lot, but we'll see what he's going to do because he's, hedging his bets, but he's supposed to do that. He's old and he's experienced and he knows not to telegraph his punches too early. He's wise, but he better deliver. And so I want us to make sure that he delivers us. He's going to have hell on his hands. I don't even know, was that the question?
That works. We'll go ahead and toss it over to Cleola and Joe Taka.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Corey, you crack me up, girl, because you speak truth to power every single time you open your mouth. No filter, and that's wonderful. Well, what I'd like to see happen during the course of this administration on our part is that as a community of all of the ethnicities that have been spoken about so far, not to do what we did with Barack Obama, which is to sit back and think now we have it fixed. It's not fixed. Or to think that the work has been done. The work is only starting. But to pick up the banner in such a way that there's new energy behind those fights that are germane to our communities. We have to put that spotlight on the fact that our communities and neighborhoods are so underserved when it comes to broadband and access to where this world is going. There's a whole nother language that gets spoken outside of our communities that when people are talking, our community look a little lost in the dialogue, talking about, well, you go online and you do this, that, or the other. They don't know what you're talking about because there is not one computer in the house. Yet there are 4 or 5 in that house that need it in order to be able to keep up.
I think you're unmuted. I mean, you're muted. Go ahead.
Okay, you got me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I get emotional and I start hitting buttons. I'm an example of what I was just talking about, being able to utilize the services. But we've got to be able to stay focused on those things that we know that are right at the top of the list. The companies that can provide the services should become our targets, not necessarily in an antagonistic way, but to speak with them from a point of we know, because we still live there, what's not there, to make sure that it is provided so that our community has an opportunity to grow with the changes. That's on us. And then to be able to take valid information to those resources that are now in place to help us do better for our own, to break down some of the walls between the various communities, because Black folks aren't the only ones that are hurting. Women are not the only ones that are looking to be mobile and moving up. I mean, and when we talk about the mixture between our API community and our African-American community, I'm excited because inside the labor movement, because that's where Ethel Randolph Institute is, we have a very strong group called APALA that is kicking butt and taking names. And I can't tell you how angry I was when your used to be president was taking shots at Asian populations here and calling it the flu and the virus itself, all kinds of names that were derogatory to very specific races and ethnicities. I got mad because that kind of racism I know about from a different kind of place. But unless we speak to it, it will continue to happen. Now is the time, with the diversity that is there, gender-wise, ethnic-wise, for us to constantly remind all of us and those who make decisions that there is an obligation to serve all of our communities to the best of their abilities, to bring about some equity and to make sure that we are no longer struggling the way that we used to. But it's on us to say it and make sure that it happens. That's what I want to see happen.
I'll jump in here, and everything that has already been said by our sage leaders is the absolute truth. I think also in the first 100 days, it's going to be important for this administration, and they've already started. I think we already saw on day one, we saw a historic, diverse group of appointees sworn into office to begin to do the work. We've seen a very diverse cabinet. I think there's opportunity for this entire administration to be even more diverse. We've already saw the commitments around COVID, the commitments around making sure that we rejoin and undo a lot of the damage that was done by the previous president of the United States. And so that's going to be important. But I think also it's going to be important in the first 100 days that we are really speaking to policies and implementing policies that impact people's day-to-day lives. We know that because of the mismanagement of this last administration of the COVID pandemic, it has had a disproportionate impact on people of color and people in communities across the country, particularly in small communities where, you know, people have either had their entire jobs just eradicated and gone away, or their hours significantly reduced. The reality is that people are not, you know, traveling as much. People are not staying in hotels as much. And we know who's working in those hotels. Those are hardworking, largely Black women and people of color of all ethnicities that are working in these places that no longer have their jobs. And then the issue of justice, you know, that was an issue and continues to be an issue in all of our communities. And I think this administration is speaking in the policies that they can at the federal level, but also I think it's on us too to make sure that we are focusing on the local, that in local communities, mayors and city councils and district attorneys, that was a historic number of Black women in Congress. There's been, you know, there is a historic number of Black women mayors and those in city councils and district attorneys. That's going to be important too, to make sure that in those local communities, we are able to lift up and work on policies that impact someone's day-to-day life. What does the education of their child look like during a pandemic? What does justice look like in individual cases that are up under the purview of a local district attorney? All of those things matter. And the last thing that I would say is back to the earlier question of what this means more largely to have a Black woman as vice president. I think it goes beyond politics in that it is also super important for us to recognize what it means in business, what it means in places like Silicon Valley, corporate America. All of these industries, I think, are going to pay much more attention and be much more intentional about women of color in the C-suite, women of color as CEOs, women of color on their boards, and recognize that it is far gone the time for us just to be the backbones, but for us to take in our rightful place as leaders.
Thank you, Joteke, for really bringing this panel to a close as we go ahead and transition to the second panel.
Hey, Christine. We had one more question I wanted to ask before we do.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Thank you. Look, but let me let you have your closing remarks on this panel first, and then I'll.
Oh no, go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Okay. And then some of you all have already answered the question, and in some ways, but I did want to. I think it's really important that we talk about how we pay it forward. So what are you going to do? And this is like rapid fire response question to continue to. Everybody on here is paying it forward. But what else in this moment do you see as a quick round robin of how you want to pay it forward for the next generation of Black girls and API and Asia Pacific Islander girls and young ladies to see themselves in this moment, and they can see themselves with them. Just quick round robin, and I'm not gonna call names. Whoever wants to jump in there.
I'll be first.
Okay.
Because I can answer that question very easily. I founded and run a $35 million facility called the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, and we radicalized, to use that term accurately, our Black kids, and we teach them and we educate them and we portray the Melanie Campbells of the world. And I had it's so interesting. It's become an institution in the city. And my email and my Facebook post was Blacks and Wax, Blacks and Wax, that little girl in Blacks and Wax. So you're going to teach the kids about Blacks, so I'm going to continue to do what I do, which is educate, radicalize my people as they come through my community and stay deep in my community.
All right. Well, I'll go next. I think in the rapid responses, I have been very focused on training my replacement to make sure that there's not just a spot available, but a warrior that is in place to continue the struggle as we move forward, and to do all of that in sincerity so that she knows, and it's a she, all right? So that she knows that there's a responsibility there to not just grab for forward, but to reach by her side and behind her to pull other people along. That to me is what will help us to build that really strong base for where we need to go, and to open your eyes, not just to us, but to all of us. That's what I wanted to.
Yep, and at Higher Heights and myself personally, we're going to accelerate the work to help Black women vote, run, win, and lead.
And I'll jump in myself personally and Win with Black Women. We are committed to creating a space for Black women across industries to connect. And also elevating our collective power and agenda, and making sure that the next generation of young Black women step in to the power that exists already within them, and giving them the space to lead. And finally, making sure that we see Black women, everywhere, whether it is in magazines, on television, on networks, that we see Black women, because as it was said, it's hard to be what you cannot see.
And then with Apex and myself, we're working every day to really uplift the Women's Collective and highlight AAPI women in leadership positions as role models, and also as they work with other women of color to be good allies. And so we continue to do that, and we look forward to working with all of you in our shared goals.
And Christine, what about you? What about APIAVote?
I'm already, I've already seen it everything coming together this 2020 cycle, just because with everything that we're all faced, I've seen the collaboration that's been happening, and I'm really hopeful. I mean, even just for the fact that in the API community, we had the API Greeks and the sororities and fraternities who typically are not as engaged in paying attention to the elections. We had one group, the Kappa Delta Phi sorority. They were inspired by the Stroll to the Polls movement that was led by the Black Greek community, and they participated in that. And so to me, that gives me hope as in terms of what we could do to inspire this new generation and for them to continue on and push us even forward. So with that, I think, yeah.
Okay, and I have to shout out to my sisters who are paying it forward, right? With the Black Women's Roundtable, with Black You Vote, with all of our unity partners and our coalition partners, you know, they're paying it forward, you know, and I gotta stop because I'm thinking about that 100 days and all that happened in the states that we all worked in. I'm gonna lift up those sisters in Georgia for a minute. I got to call the roll. Can I call the roll? I got to call Helen Butler name and Deborah Scott and Felicia Davis and Mary Pat Hector and our sister, Brother Sawyer, who was out there. Stacey Abrams, we all know Stacey. So what is it? Insane. And who I'm leaving somebody out. Call her Georgia name.
Danielle Brown.
Right, thank you very much.
Felicia
Right. Sisters.
Yes, Felicia. I was wondering
and
about
Christine,
Felicia.
did you
I
have some
hadn't heard her
sisters
name.
in Georgia? Call the name.
Yeah, so actually that leads perfectly into that second panel because
Okay,
we have Stephanie Cho from
okay.
Georgia, for Asian American Advancing Justice. They really took the leadership, and not only for their group, but to build a coalition and to build alliances with the communities of color. Also Bianca Gishi, who's also with the National Gay Women's Forum. So, you know, it's really because of the grassroots and new people getting engaged this cycle that we're able to move forward on this.
Thank you. And then we'll turn to Sister Michelle, our hostess are the most to introduce the next panel. And then you start off with the questions on the phone. We're going to do this yin yang thing, this back and forth, and you lead the next one. I'll follow you. Is that good?
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let me just say that first panel was absolutely riveting, absolutely informative, but most of all, it kept all of us motivated to keep doing this work. So thank you so much, ladies, for all the great work that you're already doing. Our second panel will consist of Ms. Stephanie Cho. As Christine just mentioned, she's from Georgia. She's Executive Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice. We're also going to have Bishop Leah Daughtry, co-convener of Power Rising. We'll have Bianca Jayotishi, Georgia Organizing Manager for the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. We'll have our very own Black Youth Vote from the national office, Ms. Acacia Newman. She's project assistant in Black Women's Roundtable, as well as Black Youth Vote and a part of NCBCP. And last but not least, we will have Dr. Allison Scott, who is president and CEO of the K-Poor Center. Ladies, have at it. We are excited to hear from you today.
Great. Maybe we'll actually continue with the conversation in that order of Stephanie and then Bishop Leah Daughtry to lead us off. But actually, I want to find out, you know, what are really the next steps in building these closer relationships and stronger coalitions between Black, Asian Pacific Islanders, and other women of color to ensure that we win on these issues that are mutually important to our communities. We know there are local elections happening in some of the states, and then we also know, you know, 2022, the midterm elections are just right around the corner as well. So if we will start off with Stephanie and then
Hi, great. So in Georgia, the road to sort of this big change, this big wave, as all of you know, has not happened overnight. And there's been so many people, and I wanted to also uplift Tamika Adkins, Wanda Mosley, and also Latasha Brown too, in sort of a roll call situation. I think there's been a tremendous sort of gain that has really happened over the years. And I think when we're looking for coalition work moving forward, it's really the work that organizations in the South have done that I'm really inspired by. And I think that there's been a lot of movement that has really been intentionally intersectional and not transactional, right? And really built on the relationships that people have that have been doing the work over the years, which I think has really made a huge difference. And when we're looking about doing any policy work at our organization and many of the organizations in Georgia, we're constantly looking at how do we be innovative and how do we make sure that the issues that are happening at the grassroots level really are made into real policy. And I think that that work has really transcended and really given sort of truth to power for a lot of the different issues. One is around voting rights. The voter suppression issues, I think that people more recently nationally understood as a bigger problem in Georgia. I think it's just a more recent understanding, like the issues in different communities and the ways that voter suppression and white supremacy work together to really hold down the vote for people of color. And I think despite all of those things and what's happening and moving forward in the local work and then also nationally is that there's a fight back now, right? There's all these people now that saw the power, right, of the immigrant vote, the Black vote, and now they want to suppress that even more on a national level. And they want to take that playbook from what they saw in Georgia, how they tried to take us down in Georgia, and they didn't. So moving into legislative session, even right now, there's a bunch of terrible bills, but we have built a really strong coalition that is multiracial and that is working across the state to really look at how we can get more people involved in some of those really key areas where people don't realize that there's immigrant Black voters in those areas. Maybe they see it now on CNN because they saw the map or whatever, but now we were going to do that anyway. So the way we sort of see it is that coalition building is important all year long. It's important when no one's looking, and it's really important to really move forward so that we can change from basically our place of fighting and fighting for every single thing to a place where we can really move towards really progressive and new policies in Georgia.
Thank you, Stephanie, and congratulations, because it really was a collective effort for the Georgia runoffs. So with Bishop Leah Daltrey, I mean, you've had a long legacy. Many of us really have continued to learn from you. You know, what do we need to know as we move forward continue to build and actually address the issues that need to be focused on? Oh, if you could unmute yourself.
Thank you, Christine, and thanks to Sister Melanie for her leadership and all the ways that she works every day to build the kind of coalitions that we're talking about today. You know, coalition work really begins, as Stephanie said, every day, not even really around work sometimes. I think what lacks, I think, in our communities often is just the relationship building and the getting to know each other. We like to, and sometimes, you know, we're women, we just dive right into that work, right? But what our country needs, I think right now, is for us to really see each other, to hear each other, to understand where we're coming from, and to really to expose and dive into the principle that you don't have to be just like me to be just like me. So if we can, I think some of us just dive into the relationships and start to build strong sister bonds with each other that transcends issues so that when issues come up, we know who's got our back. We know who we can go to. We're familiar with one another outside of the work of rallies and signs and protests and all of that, but we can understand one another as sisters who share similar issues and similar bonds. That makes the movement work that much stronger. That makes the movement work that much deeper because we have built trust with one another around, well, of course, we're in COVID now, around Zoom screens. But when we can, around kitchen tables, because particularly among African American communities and Asian American communities, the culture is very similar. We bond around food, we bond around families, we bond around sitting and the aunties and the uncle and getting to know one another. And I think when we learn to see each other as women, as sisters, then when it's time for a fight, let's go, let's suit up together. And there's so much work that we need to do together and within our own communities. Listen, I'm still concerned. We had a great day yesterday. It was wonderful and magical and glorious, but I'm still just a little bit salty that there is no Asian American in the cabinet. I'm a little bit salty about that. Actually, I'm a lot salty about that. And so how do we make sure that the interests of the Asian community are protected even while we're at the table? How do we hold them up and make sure that their concerns don't fall through the cracks? Because for the first time in a very long time, there is no Asian American cabinet secretary. That's unfair, in my opinion. And so that makes those who are at the table carry a double burden to ensure that those who are not at the table are still represented, that their concerns are still heard, that someone is still speaking for them. And that can only be done if we share the bonds of community and share the bonds of sisterhood. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of doors to open. We got a lot of ways to make. We got a lot of seats to drag. We got a lot of doors to bust down, but we can do it together. We're stronger together than we are in our separate communities.
Thank you so much. You're always so eloquent and know how to wrap that up so tightly. So Bianca and Acacia Newsome and Dr. Allison Scott, would you like to go ahead and address, what do we need to do to win on the issues that are mutually important to us?
Yes, hi, I can start. Thank you all so much for having me here. Just want to echo what's already been said and also add a little bit more. I think this past 2 elections, with the general election and the runoff, it's been really clear the power we have when we work together. So NAPAWF has been doing a lot of work at the local and national levels in coalitions, and those have been led by Black, API, and women of color. There are narratives that are really harmful about API and Black communities intentionally put to pit us against each other, especially when the real issue is actually whiteness. And so at NAPAWF, we are working to combat these narratives within our own communities and stay in coalition with other groups to ensure that we are not losing sight of collective liberation. So at the national level, we have been working in coalition with a Black and Latina RJ group, reproductive justice group, called Intersections of Our Lives. We pushed a survey in 2018 to capture the needs of women of color from their elected officials. We found that women of color voters would like to see greater visible representation among the choices to represent them. Shocking. 88% of those women would like to see more women candidates running for office, and 85% would like to see more candidates of color running for office. And so just some of what we're doing is really trying to bridge that gap. And I'm hoping that yesterday is going to be a good indicator of the change that is yet to come. And then at the local level, we are part of a group called Amplify, which is a coalition of Black women of color led reproductive justice groups to fight for reproductive justice for our communities. And so because of our coalition work, we are recognized as a national coalition that legislators listen to and talk to understand the intersection of race and class and gender. We want our elected officials to consider the needs of Black, Latinx, and API people when it comes to reproductive justice. It's not enough that abortion is just legal. It's about finding care that is affordable and accessible in different languages as well. And so what we're seeing is that many of our people want to have children, but can't or are unable to because of a lack of healthcare due to language or immigration status or financial situations or language access. So it's crucial, absolutely crucial, that we continue our coalition work to make sure that we are able to make sustainable and structural changes that will benefit our communities, all of our communities.
Thank you, Bianca. Acacia, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I would like to just say that I want to just honestly amplify everything that everyone has already said, simply because all of that is just facts. Like that's what we say it in our generation, it's just facts. So I think that one thing that will really help is that if we just continue to build the momentum, you know what I mean? Continue to do the civic engagement that we have already been doing, you know what I mean? And I feel like that will, just the same way that it made an impact in the election, it should make an impact in this new administration. And I feel like that all the young Black women and the young Asian Pacific Islander women, you know what I mean? Like all of us, I feel like we're doing the work, we're doing what we need to be doing. We're headstrong, we're ready to work, we're ready to, you know what I mean, get down to business. And I feel like if we just continue and just bring along any young person that we see that isn't a part of it, bring them along so that they can be a part of the change, a part of the power, a part of the force. And I feel like that right there will grant us our wins. Thank you.
And then we'll wrap it with Dr. Scott, and then I'll hand it over to Melanie.
And the Scott, I don't think she's made it yet. Hopefully she'll make it before she's on the West Coast, I believe. And so hopefully she'll come on board. So, and before I forget, thank you. I don't know if we said it formally, but I want to thank our first panel of Power Table Sisters who were on the last panel. Sisters, I'm gonna combine a question. We've talked a little bit about the 100 days, but wanted to see, and Leah, Bishop Leah, we were witnessing that together yesterday, and Sister Joteka, and all of us were witnesses from various, either physically or through all of the ways we could watch this thing. I want to ask you all the same question we asked our first Power Table panel, and that's on a personal level. What did it mean to you? How did it make you feel seeing our sister become the first vice president, 49th vice president, as a Black woman, a woman of South Asian descent, with Jamaican roots from in her family, and just this powerful sister woman, this woman become that first vice president for all of us. I felt like we were all becoming the VP yesterday. And how you paying it forward for the next generation? So I'm just going to combine those two questions. And I'll start off with, we'll just go the same way. Stephanie, and then Bishop Leah, Bianca, and then Acacia. And if Dr. Scott is on, maybe have her just make some remarks if she's able to make it.
I watched it with my daughter yesterday, which was very exciting. She asked me, I was crying like everybody. She asked me why I was crying, and I don't think I had a good answer for her because I was still processing the whole situation. Part of it was relief, part of it was remembering what 2016 felt like, especially working on election work in Georgia, and the aftermath of it over the last 4 years. And then she asked really very clearly, blankly, like, with President Biden, is he a nice person? She just asked, she's like, is he a nice person? Because she had heard that, Trump was not a nice person. So she just wanted to know. And I said, I think he tries to be a nice person. I don't know if I answered that good. And then, the same thing with Kamala. And I was like, yeah, I think she tries to be a good person or a nice person. And so she was like, good, that's good. So I think, trying to figure out ways to talk to a 6-year-old about what this meant to me or what this means, I think is also something that I'm, processing and struggling with as well. And when I think about the future, right, I think about her future. I mean, she's only 6, but I work with a lot of young people. And I think the sort of point that I see is that young people are better, I would say, are more equipped with the idea of de-investing themselves in whiteness and being part of that status quo. And I think it is our duty, or at least for me, my duty as like an older person is to really let us reclaim that leadership that is authentic to Asian American women, and that leadership and that sort of vibrancy, that sort of spirit can look in all different kinds of ways, and to really be looking for that and to mentor that also in young people. But in terms of like letting young people lead, it's not just asking their opinion and then doing something else. It's actually putting them in the front and making sure that their ideas, the way they want to do things, all that comes forth. And one of the reasons why our voting work has been dynamic over the years is because young people were leading that, and all of their ideas came forth. We had these fanny packs that were shiny and iridescent, and to like the names of how we did certain things. We started a C4 as well, and a federal PAC too, just because we wanted to make sure that we were winning, because we were not winning before. And I think it's that showing people to be brave and to be outspoken as an Asian woman. I'm also queer. It's very important to show that queer looks like a whole bunch of different things. It also includes people in the South, and it also includes moms.
I think I'm next.
Yep. Yes, Bishop. Yes.
It was the way I would describe it if I only had one sentence is to say that I felt like I got my breath back. Because I think these 4 years have been one long suspended breath, holding our breath for whatever the next crazy thing is that crazy man was gonna do, and then holding my breath through election day. Well, through the decision about the VP, and as Melanie and I can give you chapter and verse about all the work we did to ensure that a Black woman would be the VP pick, and then getting to Senator Harris, which was another moment of suspended breath, to election day and suspended breath, to Georgia and suspended breath, to January 6th and suspended breath. This whole long moment of it felt like holding my breath. And then yesterday came, and I think I was still holding my breath until I saw her come down the stairs. And then it was, that's when the waterworks started for me, was just, it's happening. It's really, really happening. And Melanie and I were fortunate, we were sitting near each other. We had a lot of our collective was there, but she and I were like right near each other. So we were like, can you believe this? And oh my God, and going back and forth. And I think we must have turned to each other about 40 times yesterday. Just like, can you believe it? Because we were right, like, right across from each other. And it was just this moment of all the years of work, all the years of struggle, all the years of fighting, all the years of our ancestors just trying to live to get to this moment. And it was just, here we are, which is not to say the work is done or that we don't have more to do, but that moment was just for me, I got my breath back and I feel like I can run 10 more miles or 100 more years because of this one moment. And so what do I do next? The work of my faith, the work of Power Rising, the work of Black Church PAC, the work of the Proctor Conference, all of us together, is to continue to pour into the next generation of leaders, to ensure that they have the benefit of what we've learned. There's no need to make the mistakes we made, so they can learn and grow and move on, and to continue to make space. There's not enough space for us in America. We need more space, and to allow and to keep kicking open doors, because some doors are not going to open politely. Some doors got to be mowed down, but to mow them down so that we all have all the space we need. Because you know what, in the end, it's not pie. There's plenty for everybody. So if we can just make the space for every voice to be heard, and that's the work I'm committed to, making the space, lifting up the next generation of leaders, and to continually say, the leadership line is short, get in it.
Amen, sister. Amen, sister. Amen. We just go sit in that. Christine, we do that. This is sister thing. We're just gonna sit in that for a second. We're gonna sit in that for a second. Thank you, sister. I was like, when I saw you yesterday, I was like, yeah, you're right. We just kept looking at each other going, you know, and many who have gone to formal things like that, you know, sometimes you don't want to be in. So I was like, woohoo, yeah. I was like, I'm just like, because you're right, just the breath of fresh air, just air change. Started changing in the morning. We ain't gonna call no name. I just saw this plane leave DC airspace. Thank you, Jesus. That's all I'm gonna say about that without calling a name. So thank you, Sister Bishop Leah Daughtry. And then now we'll hear from and I'm gonna just reset the questions again, just because I know I see Dr. Allison Scott has joined us. Thank you, sister. She runs the joint. She runs K4 Center. She's the president and CEO of the K4 Center. And so
Well,
combining.
I hate to do this, but I gotta jump. I gotta go be a pastor for a little
Thank
while.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Love you all. Call me if you need me.
And love those pearls.
Absolutely.
Carry the pearls day on through the day. We combined question, and it was like yesterday meeting. How did it personally feel for you yesterday? And when you witnessed that swearing in of our sister Kamala Harris to be the 49th Vice President of the United States, and then how are you paying it forward for the next generation? So Acacia, Bianca, Acacia, and then Dr. Allison.
Yeah, hi again. Yeah, yesterday felt really personal to me. I have so much in common with our now Vice President Harris. My parents also divorced when I was really young, and my sister and I were raised by our single mother. And in the Indian community, even now, there's a huge stigma around divorce. So all my mom's friends and families ostracized her, even though she had no job and 2 small children to raise on her own. And she did a pretty good job, I can say. I think I turned out pretty great. And she also did a really great job of making sure that we maintained our cultural roots. And so even though we didn't really have anyone to celebrate it with besides ourselves, I spoke 3 languages at home. And for lunch, I would take chutney sandwiches or roti and curry or sabji to school. And so it was really these experiences that shaped my career in activism. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm at NAPOF. That's why I love the work that I do. And it's not something that my parents have ever understood. They're still trying to get me to go to law school or medical school. But I love politics, and it's not really a topic that women in my family talk about. It's definitely been a conversation for the men in my family. In the past, before Kamala Harris's name was really as obvious as it is now, I would get shut down at dinner time conversations around politics. I would get interrupted. I would basically just like not really be given a platform to speak my opinion. And it felt really horrible. They still don't have an entire grasp of what it is that I do. But since Kamala Harris got the nomination, my parents and my family have been making an effort to ask me my opinion on what's happening, to validate my career a little bit more than they have in the past. And that to me is huge. They're asking me questions about how to vote. Is their voter registration okay? They're asking me like to check up on those things for them and help them through that process. So many of my family members have turned out to vote in this election because they see someone with a shared heritage. So this is huge for me. I feel so proud to see another daughter of immigrants in the White House. And I feel hopeful that as a fellow Indian American, she can understand the experiences of our people and our community members. And I am hopeful that she is going to make sure that the issues that we care about are going to be addressed. And I'm actually going to hold her accountable to push for our communities in her role in office. And I think for me, in terms of what I'm going to do, how I'm going to pay it forward, this question's a little weird for me because I am the next generation. I am a young person, and this is literally my job. At NAPOF, we do intergenerational work. So we're working with our youth and aunties alike. It's not just one or the other. People move to the United States at varying times in their life, and we're getting them involved with civic engagement in the political process, regardless of what generation or age they are. It is never too late to own our political power. And I think that's clear because we have a whole bunch of white people running for office, regardless of what age they are. So if that doesn't stop him, it's not going to stop us either. Annually, we run a Reproductive Justice Leadership Institute program where we provide civic education, civic engagement, organizing, and reproductive justice trainings for our community to understand how to hold elected officials accountable, how to create structural changes in our community, and how to organize. And so our current RJLI features, it's entirely virtual, and it features 3 different languages that are being done in simultaneous interpretation, which is amazing. The majority of our participants are immigrants and moms, and they have collectively organized trainings for other community members to also build power and to build leaders. And so another thing that we do that I think is huge, and it's probably my favorite thing about APIAVote, is across our staff chapters, our programming spans 17 different AAPI languages to ensure that we are able to build deep and trusting relationships with Pan-Asian women. We are reaching people who historically have been ignored and not outreached to, our citizens, aunties, immigrants, people who don't speak a lot of English or at all. This is our idea of building power so that everybody has the ability to harness their own political power and create change in their communities as leaders.
Thank you, Bianca. Acacia, and then Dr. Allison.
Hi. So yes, I would like to, hold on, wait 1 second. Okay. So I would just say for me personally, I felt 2 things, relief and blessed. So first, relieved because honestly, I did not know what or where we would be if we had to go through the same 4 years that we just went through. Blessed because I've been able to witness history so much in my lifetime, and I never thought that I would ever be able to. I was in the freezing cold in 2009 for Obama, and then to see this on the screen, it's just like, wow, like there's a woman in the office. Like I just never thought in a million years that I would ever see that. And it feels really good. And I want to say for our generation and for the generation coming up, I want to say that we are really, like right now, I feel like we've shown that we've been very hard on the candidates and hard on, you know what I mean, Biden and Kamala and the things that we want to see for them to do. And I feel like that as a Black Youth Vote representative, I really want to continue to pay it forward and just continue to help our young people with research, help them with, you know what I mean, like understanding what it really means for there to be a Black and Asian Pacific Islander woman to be in the office right now. Minus everything else that they want to bring up, minus everything else that, you know what I mean, comes up in the news and in on Twitter, especially. It's just, there's so much more to look forward to. There's so much more for young people to realize that a Kamala can do and Biden can do, you know what I mean? So I just really want to make sure that our young people have the knowledge, they have the research, they have everything that they need in order to trust that that we can affect change in this administration.
Thank you, Acacia. And Dr. Allison?
Beautifully said. My gosh, I don't know how to follow all of these these wonderful sentiments. Acacia, I was also there in 09 in the freezing cold, and I think the juxtaposition of 09 and the elation that I felt in that moment in DC when Obama got elected, for all of the reasons that are mentioned about representation and just how important it meant to me personally and to my family. And then to also be in DC in 2016 or 2017 in January during that inauguration and just see, literally visualize the difference in what America can be and what it became almost overnight. And I think I am super excited to be in conversation with you all. And I would be remiss if I didn't uplift all of the work that went into getting Biden and Kamala elected, even before we get to how important yesterday was. Like on the day that the election was called, I cried all day long, and I cried all day for so many reasons. It was relief, as you said, what does 4 more years of this look like? And for me, the first time of hearing Black women be uplifted in national media as having played a role in the democracy of this country just meant a lot to me. So then to go from that to the win in Georgia that you all just absolutely crushed it on was like, I could not have imagined anything better. So the icing on the cake was inauguration. And as Bianca said, as a HBCU graduate, that was what really stood out for me, is to see the Howard University marching band escort Kamala into the White House was just spectacular for me. So I am still trying to process the excitement and what it means for the future of our country. And I was just on a call. I apologize that I'm late, but I was just on a call that somebody said, this is a really important moment, not just for representation, but for thinking about where does this country go from here? We've seen what this country could be, and we have an opportunity to create something better. And so in terms of paying it forward, I think, I can talk about some of the work that we do, which is focused on diversity and technology. So you might say, well, how does that relate to civic engagement and grassroots activism? I think we all just saw the importance of technology and how it played a role in every aspect of our democracy. So we are doubling down on increasing representation across the entire tech sector, because we have to have an informed citizenry. We have to have informed young people. We have to have creators who are creating new products, and folks to hold these people accountable, so that we don't have platforms that are promoting white supremacy in the ways that they have that led up to the storming of the Capitol on January 6th. So I see all these things intertwined. I'm here for the long run, super excited and grateful and honored to be a part of this conversation, and just truly appreciate all of the hard work that went into this historic moment.
Thank you, Dr. Allison. My sister Christine, any thoughts you had? I know we didn't really go into, because we're at that time and we don't want to, we didn't want to go over time, but just take a couple of seconds, couple of minutes to just say any closing remarks and thank all of you awesome sisters who joined us today, and shared your thoughts and shared your intimate thoughts about how you felt. Because sometimes we I don't really talk about how I feel. I appreciate you sharing that. So somebody out there, some sister and brother for that matter, who feel like, it's okay to, sometimes we don't like it. We say, because we're holding our breath, afraid to celebrate. But we can't let the devil steal. That's what I was told growing up. So we're going to enjoy the moment, knowing that it's not the only moment. It's okay to enjoy the moment. And I'm in the moment just for a couple more hours. Then I turn on to pull it out, all the other things that we have to do to make this moment mean that a moment. So I'm turning over and thank Christine Chen again for partnering with us and doing this, all you do in the civil rights and social justice community. And Christine is one of those sisters who smiles, but don't let that smile fool you. So in closing remarks, you have us, and then Michelle to do our closing as our hostess for the mostest today. Christine.
Thanks, Melanie. I mean, it's just an amazing conversation today. Thank you to all the panelists for really your voice, your presence, your leadership, and continued counsel. I mean, we're all learning from one another on how we could continue to forge those relationships and bridge those commonalities and understand towards how we can continue to, empower our communities. I think the common theme of the last few days, especially yesterday, is that it really is starting a new year, and we are finally taking our breath. I think we've been running for especially the last 2 years between census and the elections and the pandemic. I think we all need to take time for ourselves too, to enjoy this moment, to actually breathe, but to also reflect on all that has transpired and to take care of each other. It's just been a blessing to be able to share this space with all of you. So I'm just recommitting to our relationship, Melanie, yes, and to expanding our relationships that we have here, but also beyond. And it's true, we have a lot of work to do after this, after we take this short little break and enjoy this moment with all the disinformation, misinformation. There's so much that we've been learning from what has happened that we know it's going to continue that. So we need to be better about how we work on that. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And my closing thoughts of this, we can't, you said it, winning isn't just the day of, and of course we're saying it's in a nonpartisan fashion. I want to make sure we're really clear. We didn't tell anybody who to vote for. It's just that I do have my personal opinions about it and my own personal viewpoints about who I wanted to see. But the results are the same. Whoever we put in office, whatever Republican, Democrat, whoever it is, the folks, we have to hold them accountable. So for those who are out here watching, remember these first 100 days are your first 100 days too. I want to lift up President of the United States, Joseph Biden, for having the vision to be bold enough to put to ask our sister Vice President, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, to be his running mate, and for her to accept that they are a partnership, they are a force, but that force has to be fortified in this moment. And that build back better theme. That's all of our theme. And so when we left our folks, and we don't go away for 4 years and say, come back, engage right now, send folks what you want. If you haven't done it already, what do you want to see in the first 100 days, right? It's our government. What it feels good about, I feel like it's our government. And however way you want to put it, what we had for the last 4 years was not our government. We had an occupant in the White House who was there only for their personal gain. And so today we feel this new day. And I want to do a special shout out to all of our folks at the NCBCP who did this work. And my sister Michelle, of course, and Josh and Lon and Leslie, and Angela, not Angela, Angelo and Antoinette, and the whole NCBCP team and all of our folks. And so for us, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and Black Women's Roundtable, we have this theme for 2021 and beyond. We're going to rebuild hope. We're going to continue to work to rebuild hope, rebuild justice in this country, equality and equity. And so we're doing that in several states. And so shout out to all of our leaders in Alabama and Louisiana and Florida and Mississippi and Georgia and Maryland and Michigan and North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and of course, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. So thank you all for joining us. And I turn it over to our sister, Michelle, the indie mom of comedy, and so much more. She's a social justice warrior, a mentor to so many. Michelle, can you give us the closing and thank all of our panelists and all of our and Essence and Roland Martin and
Absolutely.
Our sister Allison and all of them for being Allison Wilson and everybody for joining us for this She Leads celebration. So Michelle, roll us out, close us out. Thank you, everybody.
Well, I want to say thank you to every single panelist. I have to say it. Thank you, Cora Mastersberry. Thank you, Cleola Brown. Thank you, Glenda Carr. Thank you, Madeline Melky. Thank you, in absentia, in spirit, Mignon Moore. Thank you, Joteka Edie. Thank you, Stephanie Cho. Thank you, Bishop Leah Daughtry. Thank you, Bianca Jayotishi. Thank you, Acacia Newsom. And thank you, Allison Scott. As you saw these women weave in and out of this conversation, they went right back into their positions to do what they lead in their own areas. And so we are grateful for your time. Thank you, Essence Communications, for being the social media partner. Thank you, Roland Martin Unfiltered, for always having our back as we get this information out. And thank you so much to APIAVote for being such an amazing co-lead and partner on this She Leads celebration. In closing, I just like to say I am always grateful to serve as your host, as your go-between for glitches and goof-offs and all things in between. But I want to say this, thank you to the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, the entire team, Black Women's Roundtable, and last but not least, thank you to Joseph R. Biden for choosing Kamala Harris to be our first VP that looks like Kamala Harris. And the last thing I'll say is, I hope you all noticed that yesterday was also a picture demonstration of how family ebbs and flows. 3 families that were combined, families of previous marriages, families of new marriages. That all shows how America really is not a cookie cutter. It is all kinds of families coming together for change. And so thank you so much on behalf of the Black Women's Roundtable. I've been your host, Michelle, the Indie Mom of Comedy, and take good care. She leads. She leads. Thank you.
Thank you.